King Ghidorah. Folks, let me tell you, I have never had as much fun rewatching and enjoying cinema as I have had going on this journey, rewatching these Godzilla films in celebration for the release of Magic the Gathering's Ikoria, Lair of Behemoths. And fittingly, everyone is getting their booster boxes, their collector's boxes, their Commander 2020 cards, and their special promos. And they are enjoying their Ikoria sets. And just as Ghidorah, King of the Monsters, or the false king, I should say, the paper champion Ghidorah, just happens to be the most expensive single card you can pull out of a collector's booster or as a foil box topper from the regular booster boxes. We are watching the movie of the debut of King Ghidorah himself. Now, for those who didn't watch the standalone film of Rodan, this also kind of serves as a debut, as a introduction as well to the lava-born pterodactyl known as Rodan, as we have the combined forces of Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan working together to take on a new threat to the Earth, which is King Ghidorah. And let me tell you, folks, if you have not been inspired to check out these movies yourself from watching these videos, I strongly urge you to do so. However you wish to do it, whether you have streams, whether you want to sign up for a Criterion subscription service, you have some sort of rental video thing, or if you're like my friend Martin and you just buy a whole box set of pristine HD Blu-ray discs that have, since Mothra vs. Godzilla has actually greatly helped me to be able to not have to track down the dregs of the internet to find the older Godzilla movies. So, Martin, you're a cool dude. Either way, folks. So, moving right along, just getting to the nitty-gritty of this movie, I have to say, this is actually my favorite movie thus far. We're 5 movies deep out of 35 plus. We've got a long ways to go, but so far, the movie's pacing for the Rise of Ghidorah, the Astro Monster himself, I thought was actually quite enjoyable. Although it did take us a while to get to the penultimate brawl between Godzilla and Rodan and subsequent final battle between all 4 monsters, it didn't really feel like it was a slog. It didn't really. The plot was not plotting. It was quite interesting in setting up this fictional other country in which they have some diplomat being sent to Japan, because, you know, after the past 4 movies, we can clearly see the safest place for a foreign diplomat to be right now is Japan. But, of course, predictably, her political enemies causes her plane to explode in midair, in which we get, actually, some more backdrop here with the movie. I apologize. It's in the middle of January, and we could not help but be rolling ourselves as we were watching this, as there's political commentary being done about how it's in the middle of January, and it's very hot, and there's specific diseases that are occurring, and the climate is just all kinds of messed up because of some strange occurrences that are happening, and we just couldn't help ourselves with joking around about how, you know, even 60 years ago they told us we had a 10-year time clock. Climate change, it's imminent and it's coming, and we have to change our ways, otherwise the world is doomed. And I just thought that was rather funny. But either way, they had a really good setup. There's actually quite a bit of quality intrigue between the humans this time around. We actually felt really invested in the characters, but they try to do that a little bit with Godzilla facing against Anguirus and trying to make you be endeared to the pilots and the relationships therein. But this one really made you care about the people that are involved and actually appreciating all the moving parts. But regardless, one by one we get the tiny Asian girls from the infant island apparently are national TV stars now, as they appear and help sing the song of Mothra to the people of Japan so that the kids can actually see Mothra, who's become a bit of a celebrity. And why wouldn't she be? She was a complete badass in the last movie, protector of the earth. They call her Queen of the Monsters for a reason. But it was rather amusing seeing those girls back and seeing Mothra not quite in moth form. After all, this movie with Ghidorah only came out 8 months after the release of Mothra vs. Godzilla, so she's still in larval form. She hasn't had much time to grow. She is quite a bit bigger, but we won't get to see her big, beautiful Mothra self until a few movies down the line. But either way, she's there. She's protecting people, and she's doing the best she can, damn it. Beyond that, we had the rise of Rodan happening, where one of the titular characters, who was the queen or diplomat of that, as foretold, landscape, essentially, the foreign nation, the fictional nation that was made just for this film, she foretold that something bad was going to happen on the mountain, and lo and behold, through molten rock, rises Rodan, and starts doing their supersonic thing, just going through the skies. She also tries to warn people not to go on a boat, and of course, because everyone thinks she's crazy, because she says she's from Venus, because hardy har har, girls are from Venus, and men are from Mars. But either way, she tries to warn people not to go on a boat. They want to go on the boat anyway. So there's Godzilla hunting down these giant multi-ton tuna in the middle of the ocean, and this boat apparently got in the way of that and pissed off Godzilla, and he burned everyone to a crisp that was on that shuttle. So, maybe listen to people that tell you they're from Venus. You might hear some interesting stories and learn some life lessons along the way. But we introduced Rodan, and we're introduced to Godzilla and Mothra, and Godzilla tries to come up on shore, and there's Rodan as he just kind of barrels into him like the guy cutting you off on the highway. Not that I know anything about that, but that's a little bit of a personal story. Either way, Rodan bumps into Godzilla, and Godzilla looks at him, and he's like, you know what, I could go for some chicken wings right now. And they start chasing each other down, and they get into a big old tussle between each other. Now, Ghidorah eventually does become a problem. He cracks open from his meteorite. He gets the pyro entrance. You just hear, the Triple H theme music of bow down to me, bow down to the king, as Ghidorah rises from his meteorite. There's pyro, there's fire, there's brimstone, there's all kinds of flashy special effects as the three-headed golden winged Hydra terror of space comes down to Earth and presumably fries everything within a 50-mile radius. But either way, Mothra, being the smart kaiju she is, sees this as an imminent threat to the Earth. She tries to scuttle her way, because she doesn't have a shuttle bus, she doesn't have her wings, she doesn't have a convenient mode of transportation, so she scoots her cute little butt all the way over to the brawling Godzilla and Rodan, and we learn some things, because apparently the tiny little Asian women from Infant Island can translate kaiju so the humans can understand what they're talking about. As Mothra pleads with Godzilla and Rodan, she begs them to stop fighting. They have to save the world from Ghidorah. And apparently, Godzilla and Rodan, they initially didn't care. Godzilla believes that the humanity doesn't deserve to be saved because they constantly are bullying the other monsters. And you know what? On humanity's behalf, Gojira, Godzilla, I'm sorry that you felt that way. We're 5 movies deep, and we never asked about how Godzilla felt about all the destruction and burning and mayhem that she was causing. Maybe she was just hungry. In the last movie against Mothra, she was clearly drunk. But nobody cared. Nobody paid a lick of attention to what Godzilla wants. And now I feel bad. But either way, initially, Mothra was not able to convince Rodan and Godzilla to work together, even for the sake of trying to entreat them that this is also their planet, and they should work together to save it just for themselves as well. And still, Godzilla and Rodan wanted the other one to apologize to one another for their transgressions. And Mothra was like, you know what? I'm going to do it myself. I beat you in the last movie. Granted, I had a brother who's now conveniently dead. But either way, I'm going to go fight that King Ghidorah, and I'm going to save the world myself. And predictably, well, maybe not predictably, since we don't really have a frame of reference for this, but little larva Mothra is no match alone from Ghidorah there. But luckily, the fighting happened just a short distance away from where Godzilla and Rodan were having their tussle. Godzilla sees Mothra getting the tar beat out of her, and he goes full Vegeta on us, and he's like, hey, no one's gonna kill Kakarot except for me. So Godzilla rushes down that mountain. He starts brawling. Rodan gets involved as well. You know, it's on. You know, this is a Donnybrook of epic proportions. There's 4 kaiju, 3 of them on one. It's like the worst version of arch enemy you've ever imagined, because King Ghidorah is just so far outclassing everything else that these guys can do. But you know what? Rodan had some good licks in. Ghidorah took to the skies, as he's wont to do, to chase after Rodan. And Rodan just freaking gives him a spear out of hell and knock Ghidorah out of the skies. That was a cool moment. Godzilla doing the best he can, getting zapped by lightning, probably being the toughest out of all the 3 competitors going against the king. Doing his best to grapple the 3 heads, the 2 tails, the 5 penises. You know, either way, Godzilla was grabbing at anything that moved. And there was a lot of movement going around. Mothra, of course, doing the best he can, ends up hitching a ride back up the hill in order to help Rodan brawling with King Ghidorah. Bites onto the tail of Godzilla and gets AAA premier coverage tow up to join the fight once again. And then from there, Mothra becomes the stallion who mounts the world as he gets on the back of Rodan and is able to shoot its sticky white substance all over Ghidorah in excess amounts that he's been holding in for the past 8 months. It's rather an impressive load, if I'm honest with you. You know, it's Japan. What do you want from me? But with the help of Mothra being able to subdue Ghidorah, Godzilla is able to grab the tails of Ghidorah and just yeets him off a cliff and says, get the heck out of here. And you know what? Ghidorah gets the heck out of there. He flies off into the sunset as Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan all look on and say, yeah, that's right. You want to mess with the Earth, you gotta go through us first. And it doesn't take Ghidorah long to not learn his lesson at all and start bothering them once again. But that comes in the next movie, in the invasion of the Astro Monster. As for this, the Venus woman survives. You know, there's some interesting plot points there, as it's all going on in the background, of course. But, you know, she ends up regaining her memories as the princess, the dignitary of the fictional nation. She survives all assassination's attempts and conveniently remembers or doesn't remember some of the more egregious things that happen to her throughout the movie. You'll have to just check that out for yourself to know what I'm talking about. But let's just say there's a very pervy psychologist that lives alone in the mountains and has a lab all to himself. And he has some questionable theories about how psychology works. Well, folks, until next time, we're going to be watching Invasion of the Astro Monster, or The Revenge of Ghidorah, however you want to call it. We're going to Planet X! And until I see you next time for that review, stay just Quintastic.